And, you know, there's side effects that come with medications. Can anyone here relate to, you want to find the answers to your problems and you go to the doctor and you get a prescription?
Right.
And that's all you leave with. So I thought, there's got to be a better way. So I'm happy to tell you, I am doing amazing. So I found freedom from my depression. I'm feeling amazing, and it's by applying these principles that Dr. is going to teach you about. I know most of you came here for our thyroid. I've seen many of our thyroid patients get better. It's worked in my life, and I'm excited for you to see how it can change your life as well. Our goal for tonight is that you leave empowered to take action for your health. And you've done the first step. You were proactive, you responded, you said, yes, I'm gonna come, you got here. So you've done the first step, so now you guys can sit back, relax, and learn what Dr. B did for you, but what he can possibly do for you as well. Before he comes up, we're gonna watch this short video, and then Dr. B will be taking it away.
The American healthcare system is badly broken. The present system doesn't work, and it's going to take us down. We need a whole new kind of medicine.
We're in the grip of a very big industry, and it doesn't want to stop making money.
If I spend 5 minutes with you and then put in one of these stents, probably get paid $1,500. For me to spend 45 minutes with a patient to try to figure out what their true problem is, probably get paid $15. It's a completely irrational system.
We don't have a healthcare system in this country. We have a disease management system.
We're spending almost twice as much in America as any other country on earth by our lifespan, and isn't even in the top 20.
30 recipients die each year from care they didn't need. That's the equivalent of a jumbo jet crashing every single week. If the aviation industry killed as many people, we'd be up in arms.
The administration pays you based on how many patients you see.
All right, who's next?
If you try and buck the system, someone says, what can you do to get your productivity up? I'm not interested in getting my productivity up. I'm interested in helping patients.
Only by accepting that the American healthcare system is badly broken will we be able to seek out the escape fires, the potential solutions. There aren't answers. The healthcare system is unsustainable. We're really mortgaging the future. Not just the health of healthcare, but the health of the nation.
Good evening. Hi. Let me just take you all in here for a second. We've got quite a group. Welcome. This short little video that you just saw, it's about 90 seconds. And I literally could take that 90 seconds and we could spend 8 hours just unpacking what's in those 90 seconds. But don't freak out. We're not going to spend the next 8 hours together, okay? But how many of you in this room feel like we have a healthcare crisis in this country? Anybody? Do y'all think it's a healthcare crisis or a health crisis?
Both.
Ah, interesting. Who blurted loudly both? Was it you, Linda? Oh. Well, blurted is good. You know, I heard a loud both. And that's usually what I get when I ask that question. So what do we think of when we say healthcare crisis? What are some of the things that pop immediately into your head? Cost.
Insurance.
Insurance. Keep going.
Unnecessary treatments.
Unnecessary treatments.
Unnecessary drugs.
Unnecessary drugs. Allie, what did you say?
Unnecessary medicine.
Okay. What about when I say the health crisis? What pops into your head?
Band-Aid.
Okay, like a more short-sighted, just Band-Aid, surface level approach.
Nutrition.
Diet, nutrition. What are Americans kind of known for when it comes to their health?
Taking a pill or
Yes.
and then the
Yes.
next pill,
What
if that pill's gonna cause a problem.
What about, yes, just take the pop a pill, the magic bullet mentality. There's a reason that we all have that mentality to varying degrees. It's called direct-to-consumer advertising by the pharmaceutical industry. You all know that we're one of only 2 countries on planet Earth that sees drug commercials. The rest of the world does not see drug commercials. The United States, anyone know the other one? You'll never guess unless you happen to know. New Zealand. But if you don't, I mean, I'm 48, almost 49. I don't remember a time when I did not see drug commercials on the television, right? We've been seeing them for decades and decades and decades. So if you think it's an accident, as Americans, we walk around with this degree of, there's a magic pill around every corner that might solve all my problems. Whether some of you might say, no, I'm not into pharmaceutical medicines. I'm into natural medicines. But some of us still walk around thinking the next diet, the next herb, the next phytochemical or antioxidant or nutraceutical is going to solve all of the problems. That line of thinking, that magic bullet mentality, guess what? It has been bought and paid for very successfully by the pharmaceutical companies. It's trained us to think that a magic pill can solve all of our problems. So tonight I don't want to talk to you like a doctor. I want to talk to you like a teacher. And actually that's where we get the word doctor, ironically enough, from the Latin docere, which means to teach. So we've kind of come a long way from where doctors may have come from, literally, if not hundreds, thousands of years ago. It literally is thousands of years ago. Hippocrates, the father of modern medicine, first do no harm, right? But docere comes from the Latin to teach. So I don't want to talk to you tonight like a doctor. I want to keep it straight. I don't want to sugarcoat things. I want to, not intentionally, but I'm probably going to ruffle a little bit of feathers because we have to unpack this healthcare crisis so that you understand, that we understand why you are in the position that most of you are in terms of the average American who is probably sitting in this seat. Maybe some of you are here for information. Maybe, usually, many of you are in these seats because you are looking for hope for yourself or for a loved one, and you're wanting to see what this is all about. But information by itself is what? Information is not quite powerful, if I heard someone say powerful, until you do what with the information? Until you apply it. You can read a book. Does that let you fly a plane? Right? You have to read a book and then apply the information and get coaching and get training and practice and everything, and then you learn the skill. So tonight, I don't want to talk to you like a doctor. I made up 1 or 2 doctorly slides, I'm going to confess. I couldn't help myself because I geek out on all the science stuff, but I don't want to bore you. My intention tonight is not to bore you to tears with the stuff that I like and geek out on. My intention is to give you information and to inspire you and to encourage you to take some form of action based on what you hear tonight. Okay, I don't know what that action is going to look like, but I'm not here to sell you anything. At the end of the time that I have, about an hour or so allotted for us, we are going to feed you dinner. But some of you may have had the conversation. I see what looks like could be some husband and wives here tonight. And so usually it might go either way, but maybe the husband, maybe he's telling the wife on the way over here, honey, we're not buying anything today. Okay, just so we're clear. So how many of you may have had that kind of a thought or that kind of conversation? Okay. Usually, oh look, there's usually enough in there. So this is not about selling you anything, but I also don't want to give you an hour's worth of information and get you very excited and then just go home without you understanding how could I apply this. So at the end, all I'm going to do, without any obligation or pressure, is just explain. If you want to come in and talk with our team about what could be right for you, what could be possible for you, I'm just going to explain that. Is that fair?
Yes.
Okay. Very good. So, just a reminder. You know, we're going to talk about pharmaceuticals and insurance. I don't want to beat a horse if it doesn't need to be beat, but a lot of times, like, it gets my blood pressure boiling, never mind yours. So just remember, I'm the messenger. Okay? No one's gonna shoot me tonight, right? Okay. So. Okay. So, you know, what do I mean by the healthcare crisis and we're being lied to? I mean, we've already talked a little bit about how we get marketed to, right, from the drug companies. We're going to talk about the insurance companies. We're going to talk for a little bit, not too long, about the food industry. There's the financial services industry, which funds a lot of drug research and how they think. And what it leads up to is this whole, maybe fancy way to say it, this modern medical industrial complex. These huge industries that are all in it for one thing: profit. Pharmaceutical companies do not care about curing disease. They care about making money for their shareholders. They're for-profit companies. They have a responsibility to their shareholders to generate a profit, right? Same with insurance companies, and same with financial service companies, and same with the food industry. So, when we talk about drugs first, in terms of this conception or misconception, I think a lot of us walk around with the conception or perception that drugs versus natural medicines work better. They're stronger. They may come with side effects, right? We all know that. Half the drug commercial is dedicated to all of the disgusting and nasty and scary, and you may die. I've talked to your doctor.
They come really nasty.
Right. But what you all might not appreciate is this is the statistics about a lot of drug medications, pharmaceutical medications. I mean, they only work for a small subset of the population. And this is not a talk to say drugs are bad and natural medicines are better, because everything has a time and a place. If I get hit by a bus, I want drugs. Okay, I want painkillers and anti-inflammatories and anesthesia if I need surgery. I want it all. But I don't want to rely on those things to manage my health. And we see a lot of patients on antidepressants and cholesterol drugs and hypertension drugs, and they work, maybe at best 50% of the time. So there's this conception that drugs work, and we're gonna risk it maybe by trying something natural. But drugs don't have a great track record, and they come with side effects. And someone at the very beginning said, one of the reasons we're in this crisis is because of a Band-Aid style approach. And so think about what drugs do and how doctors are trained, which we'll get into in a second, to use drugs. It's what is your disease, what is your symptom, or what is your diagnosis? Okay, what is the drug for that disease or that symptom? So it's about suppression of your body's innate response to a problem. And that's where we get into trouble. Sometimes they work well. I mean, if you take an antihypertensive, it's going usually, well, at least about 30% of the time, if it's going to be successful for you, it's going to lower your hypertension, right, your blood pressure. But the crazy, crazy thing is that these super smart doctors, and I'm not here to beat up doctors either, because they're really, really smart, and I think they're very well intentioned. But none of them ever trained to ask the question, why do you have hypertension? They can diagnose it, and they can give you a script, and they can basically put you on it forever. But they never seem to dig into the question enough. Why? And what do we do about that? Right? Because they don't have a lot of time, right? If I'm seeing Linda, Ashley's probably in another room waiting for me, and Laura's in another room, and Ebony's in another room, all at the same time, right? Why is that? Why do I have 5 people waiting for me at the same time if I'm in your average doctor's office? What? Why do they schedule you? Why do they schedule you at the same time? Why do they overbook you? Why? But who controls it? Who?
The pharmaceutical.
Is it Joanne? Joanne said the insurance companies. The doctors are really nice people. They went into this because they wanted to help people. But think about where we've come in just the last 30 years. I'm going to show you something here in a second. But doctors want to help you. But they're stuck in a broken system. That blonde female doctor in the video said, I keep getting pushed and pushed to get my productivity up. I don't care about getting my productivity up. I care about helping my patients. A lot of your doctors feel that way. But guess what? They gotta churn and burn, because they gotta fight tooth and nail to get paid by the insurance companies, by your insurance companies, right? And so they need to see lots of patients. They need to crank up the volume, because they know they're going to get paid pennies on the dollar. They're going to have to fight tooth and nail with your insurance company. So it's all just a big game, and it's a broken system. And who pays the price? We all do, right? So you know where I'm going with that. We are a pill nation. Just in the last 20 years, we went from 2.4 billion prescriptions written to 4 $6.4 billion, so we doubled, okay? And 55% of Americans take a prescription. On average, they take 4, and only 35% of the time does the doctor ever discuss, how do you get off the medicine, right? You know, you just keep getting more, you just keep getting more. You get a side effect, but that doesn't work, you just get another one, right? It's very rare for them to pull you off. Here's what I wanted to show you. This is back from 1970 all the way up to 2010. This skinny little sliver of a red line is the growth of physicians. This huge yellow bulky growth is administrators, healthcare administrators. And this all changed in the Nixon era when they lobbied for law changes and they wanted to make it essentially, what have they done? They've made it really difficult for us to access and to get the care that we need. The number of physicians has grown a little bit, but the bulk of the industry has grown with administration. Over half of your medical doctor's office is full of people dedicated to insurance. More than half. The other, like 40 to 45%, are the actual healthcare providers. The other 55 or so percent or more are all administrators, trying to just navigate the crazy system that we built for ourselves. It's nuts, right? The Chinese doctor in the video I showed you said, we have a completely irrational system, right? She's going to get paid $15 to talk with you about preventing coronary heart disease, but she can get paid $1,500 for 5 minutes and putting in a stent in your arm. I mean, it's crazy, right? Okay, so now we come to insurance. This is what your insurance companies, really, this is their philosophy. I want you to see this, that anything that prevents disease, promotes health, prolongs and enhances the quality of your life is not considered medically necessary. Just, we know what that means, right? The translation of not medically necessary. Anyone want to tell us?
Insurance won't pay.
They don't cover that, right? They don't pay for that. That's what that means. So, by a show of hands, anybody in here want to prevent disease? Promote health? Prolong and enhance the quality of your life? Shoot the messenger. Insurance doesn't pay for that. What insurance pays for is to identify and manage your disease with drugs and surgery. If that's what you want, someone to identify, I have hypothyroidism, to manage it, here's your Synthroid, how long do I take it? Forever. And that's all you ever get, except maybe a TSH to monitor your therapy over the course of your lifetime, which is grossly inadequate. Guess what? Your insurance pays for that. Does it work? For some lucky people, it might. But for 50% or more, it's grossly inadequate. And those are the people that are on medication and their lab work is normal and they still feel like crap. I'm just using that non-medical term, meaning they're overweight, they can't think, they're depressed, they're tired, they're bloated, they're puffy, they're in pain, they have migraines, they're constipated, they have dry, flaky skin. Women especially are more prone, they're going to lose their hair or have thinning hair. And then the doctor comes into the exam room and says, got your thyroid labs back, everything looks good, everything's normal. And then you either want to strangle the doctor or strangle yourself because you're so frustrated, right? And there's reasons for this. Because insurance-based medicine, trust me, I'm there with you because I have insurance too. I have a family. I have to protect us, right? Especially not so much from lifestyle, because I'm good at my lifestyle and I translate that over to my family. But if I'm walking in the parking lot and a teenager is texting on their phone and runs me over, I'm going to the hospital, and it's going to be, could be hundreds of thousands of dollars with bills. So I have insurance. I feel the pain. But I understand what my insurance card entitles me to. It entitles me to disease management. I personally want more than just disease management. A lot of you who are suffering or want a better experience of your health, we have to break free of what we're already, financially invested in with our insurance and understanding what that really will provide for us. But if we want more than that, We have to examine that, and we have to reach beyond that. So that's hopefully what we'll get into a little more here. Again, your doctors, I don't want to blame your doctors. Do we have any doctors in the room, by the way? We have doctors in our practice, and occasionally we have doctors at our events, which is fine. But I make it very clear whether you're a doctor or not a doctor. I'm not here to bash doctors. Doctors are stuck in a broken system. And if you went to Yale or Johns Hopkins, and you have to be super duper smart, right? To go to those places, those are some of the best medical schools on the planet. But they get zero training, 0 hours in natural medicine, in lifestyle-based medicines, in food as medicine, in nutrition, stress, exercise, natural medicines. They get 0 training. So when you go to the doctor, the Yale-based endocrinologist, and say, you know, what should I be eating? Do I have Hashimoto's? This is an autoimmune process. I've heard food can affect the immune system. And maybe that's impacting my autoimmunity, or my Hashimoto's, or my hypothyroidism. What should I eat? They literally got 0 training in that question. Good luck, right? Yeah. And usually, if they said to you, I don't know, good question, here's a book or something, that would be great. That's usually not what they say. What they usually say is, this has nothing to do with food. You know, take your medicine. Right? Take your medicine and call it a day. Because guess what? They got like 5 other people waiting for them. They only have a few minutes with you. Not because they're mean and evil, just because they're stuck inside this broken system where they're just trying to navigate the system as best they can. They don't create the rules. The insurance companies create the rules. The pharmaceutical companies influence the rules. The food industry influences all of these things. So a lot of what we face as Americans too is a lack of either a lack of information or really a lack of good information. Like these days, with all the diets out there, right? AIP, paleo, keto, low glycemic, I mean Mediterranean, DASH, all these things. Most people are wondering, what the heck do I eat? Or they just give up altogether because every 2 months there's a new diet, right? So there's a lot of need to explain and to dial in for each individual patient what they should be eating. Because we're here to talk about thyroid tonight, but if you all came into the office and you all have low thyroid, I'm not just going to give you my low thyroid diet. Here you go. Everyone go home and eat like this. Why? Because it doesn't work, and because why doesn't it work? Because you're not the same. Your immune system is different than yours. Your genetics are different than yours. Your stresses are different than yours. Your environment is different than yours. Maybe not if you're married, but you know what I mean. Hopefully you
Stresses are different.
But you get the picture. So we really dial in what the patient should be eating, right? And exercise is more than just, you know, buying an ab buster and bending your fat over 100 times a day. You know, but the infomercials are good. Like you see the models, and all of a sudden they've got 6 packs, and they're, you know, they're oiled up and they're tanned, and all you got to do is buy this thing for $99, and wait, there's more. You know, we'll send you 2, or all that stuff. But it's really about hormones, right? That's how we get belly fat, from hormones. So there's a lot of education that is required that doesn't happen in the traditional, modern American medical system. You ready to shoot me yet? Okay. So what does all of this produce? Don't overthink it. What does this produce, all of these factors, in America? Thank you. It produces an unhealthy society. And this is data from 1995, all the way projected up to 2030. And here we are close to 2020. And the prevalence of chronic disease just keeps getting worse and worse and worse. Meanwhile, we live in the United States with the most high-tech healthcare system probably in the world, or one of, or at the top, where we spend the most and we get the least in terms of return. And what do we have to show for it? Chronic disease. We can save lives. We can sew people back together and do all sorts of transplants and amazing things, which I'm glad for. But when it comes to chronic, especially preventable disease, we are just failing miserably, and it's not looking to get much better. So what does this look like? Do you want to see what this looks like?
Yes.
In a real person who actually once sat in your seat where you're sitting?
To be
then you explain, sorry, then you explain that it's not me, it's not anything I did wrong. Sorry. And, that, you know, that we can do it, we can figure it out, and then it actually happened. And that I feel like a 36-year-old again, and not like I'm 70, and that, you know, any day that one of these things is just gonna take me, and that, you know, I can't explain to somebody how good that feels. Because I was always good in my life. You know, when I was 16, I mean, all of the stories are long ago. I couldn't feel better than I have.
See, Brandy was the average American. She's only 36. So you don't have to be 56 or 76 to really start experiencing what I'm talking about. She was 36 years old, 8 medicines, going to the emergency room 2 or 3 times a month. In chronic pain, and all they'd ever do is just add one more medicine. And she was at her wit's end. And she sat in her seat saying, maybe this could be the answer. And we figured it out. She's, you know, we slowly but surely, it wasn't overnight, but she did the work and we helped her along the way. And now she's feeling like she's 16 instead of 70 when she wakes up in the morning. So this is, but I show it to you because she was 36. Can you imagine what she might have felt like when she was 46, 56, 66, right? This is, again, it's great, it's a little crazy. So what I want all of us to understand tonight is, it's not our fault, right? All of these factors are sort of working against us. Major industries, major lobbying powers, major money, deep pockets working against our individual interests. But we still do have responsibility because we have the ability to choose what we do. We have the ability to choose what we eat, how we manage our stress, how do we get up early and exercise, right? We have to exercise, literally, our responsibility, right? The insurance-based medical system is not going to save us. We are going to save ourselves, okay? Based on what we do, the choices that we make. So, this is my family. This is my parents. They came last summer from Connecticut. I had to take a picture of them after I tucked them in because they look so freaking cute. And my sisters who are up in Connecticut were like, you better take good care of Mom and Dad while they come down. So I tucked them in and I sent them a picture of my parents. These are my kids, that's my wife. And you notice I'm not in there on purpose because I have a responsibility to them. These people depend on me. So if I don't take care of myself, this has a ripple effect because I won't be there for them. My parents need me. I'm in the sandwich generation, right? My kids need me, my wife needs me, my parents need me. And so it's important that I take care of myself for me, but also for the people who depend on me, who need me, who love me, who want me to be around. So I want you to just ask yourself a question. Who's depending on you? You own a business, like I do. My team depends on me. Who's depending on you? Your husband, your spouse, your wife, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, your kids, your parents. Who is it for you? When your health begins to unravel, what are the ripple effects? Who do you have to call? How does it impact not just you, but the people that love you and that depend on you? It can become quite a burden. So I want to tell you, I wish Penning was over 20 years. This is my 22nd year of practicing. Someone's supposed to say no. After 22 years, I still get phone calls like I did last summer from Joe. Dr. B, I'm in the hospital. I'm scared to death. Can you please help me? Like, those are not fun calls to either receive or to have make, or to make, or to have to make. I said, Joe, this is a 53-year-old man. He's a little bit, you might not tell from there, he's a kind of a bigger guy. He's literally calling me on the verge of tears from the hospital, saying, I'm really scared, I don't know what to do. I said, hold on, back up for a second, tell me what happened. What's going going on? He said, I'm in the hospital, I'm feeling really bad week after week after week for probably a good 2 or up to 3 months. I said, okay, well, did you talk to your doctors? He said, yes. He has a psychiatrist. He's on medicine. He talked to a psychiatrist. I said, well, what did they say? They said, well, they just thought it was stress. And they just refilled my scripts. You know how it goes when you see the psychiatrist. You talk for 5 or 10 minutes, and they ask you a few questions, and they refill your prescriptions. Did you talk to your primary care doctor? Yes. You tell me what's going on. What was going on? I kept getting fatigued. I was tired. I couldn't think. I couldn't sleep. He happens to be an artist, so he really relies on producing art and selling it at the gallery in order to feed his family. So he was starting, the stress of him not feeling well was building and adding salt in the wound of him not feeling well. So he stopped being able to produce his art, and his doctor didn't know really what was going on. He said he thought it was just stress. And meanwhile, he was gaining weight, he was getting puffy. And meanwhile, his boss is worried, right? Because now his boss at the gallery is worried for him, for his health, but also financially. His family's worried, his wife is worried, because he's not feeling well. So finally, he couldn't take it anymore. It's getting worse and worse. He goes to the emergency room. So they say, we'll run some tests, and we'll see if we can figure out what's going on. So they took blood. They came back in a short while later, and they said, we have an answer. You have diabetes. Here's your insulin, and you'll take it forever. And that was it. And then they discharged him. So this is while he's sort of waiting for discharge, he's calling me like, how could this have happened? Where did this come from? He called his mother while he's in distress also. Because when you're 53 and you're sick, guess what? You still call your mom. His mom was so worried. She was about to go on vacation. Her son's in the hospital. At this point, I don't think she knew what was happening yet. She canceled her vacation. She couldn't go on vacation knowing her son's in distress and the hospital is in a health crisis. They don't know what's going on yet, right? So she canceled her vacation. Do you see the ripple effect? Now his mom's putting her life on hold. His boss is now losing sleep because of the financial impact of his, star employee and artist. His wife is now starting to lose sleep and get stressed because she's worried about her husband and she's also worried about the family, right? You see how these ripple effects happen? Has anyone had this experience where your health has unraveled and now you're worried about the effects of this has happened? Or had that experience, like a loved one has had a problem and now it starts to roll into your life, like the ripples? It's tough. How is it? You tell me. What's it like?
Scary.
It's scary. That's probably a good way to sort of encapsulate all of it. It's very scary. So I said, Joe, how much time did they spend with you in the emergency room? He said, well, like 2 minutes. Literally, like 2 minutes. Because, in the emergency room, their goal is to just diagnose it, treat it, and get you out the door. So that sort of made sense to me. I said, well, there's more to the story. Would you like to sit down? Would you like to go over this, like knee to knee? We'll talk about what was happening when this all started, and maybe we can figure out how this seemingly came out of nowhere, because I can tell you right now, disease does not come out of nowhere. It just doesn't, right? There's a cause and there's an effect. Medicine is good at looking at the effects, right? The diagnosis and then treating it, but there's always a cause. And so he said, yes. I said, let's game plan, let's talk, let's spend some time figuring out what was going on. I have more time. Let's do that. Let's figure it out. Let's order some tests that weren't ordered to figure out not just that you have diabetes, but what may be causing the diabetes. And then let's come up with a plan. Would that be something you're interested in? I said, yes, please. Like, how quickly can we do this? So we did it. And we created a plan. And in his case, it was an interesting case because a month later, after we talked and started his plan, he was no longer diabetic. But not because I'm the world's best doctor in terms of diabetes, because I'm a very good listener, and I have the luxury of time. Because the average doctor's visit, does anyone know how long the average doctor's visit in the United States is? 7 minutes. So I don't take 7 minutes. I take an hour every time I meet with a patient, from beginning to end, every time. So anyway, in uncovering his case, we learned, because we had the luxury of time to figure out, and this is not the case for all diabetics, but in his case it was. He wasn't diabetic in the first place. He was, one of his medications was clearly causing his high blood sugar. And it's a medication that's not like a weird medication, it's a common medication, and anybody that prescribes the medication should very well know that it leads to high blood sugar levels. So all we did was have him go back to his doctor, explain the situation, make a dose adjustment, and really we got to work on diabetes treatments that are natural and that can re-establish the insulin sensitivity. But really the cause of his case was a medicine. We adjusted it, and a month later, he was not taking insulin. His blood sugar was not totally normal, but it was much better. He didn't need insulin, and now he's completely what we would call normal glycemic and doesn't need any diabetes medicines. Okay? My question is, I've already asked this, I think, but how many of you feel like you're Joe? Or you know someone that you love or care about that's Joe? Where they're being shortchanged for whatever reason, because the modern American medical system is just not set up to answer those kinds of questions and invest that kind of time and to deal with the cause of the problem and then create a game plan around the cause. In this case, Joe wasn't a patient of mine. He was my brother.
Yeah.
I get it. I get choked up. Because what if Joe, not all of you have, those of you that are Joe, you don't all have someone like me in your life. You don't all have a doctor in the family, so to speak, that can help you. And over 22 years, I have heard all your stories. You know how many stories I've heard of yours that sound a lot like Joe's? But no one's really taken the time to dig in and investigate and really identify and then deal with the cause of the problem, which is that problem. And so this is unacceptable. This is why 22, actually now 26 years ago, 1992.
Yeah.
26, yeah. 26 years ago, I had to make a decision. What kind of medicine am I going to go into? And I decided I was going to go into functional medicine or really naturopathic medicine. At a time, 26 years ago, in 1992, let me tell you, it was not cool. It was not hip. It was not trendy. But it was in my heart that I understood I could have a science-based approach to natural medicine, being trained like a primary care doctor, but with an expertise in natural medicine. And really, our whole philosophy is about building relationships with the patient, because a lot of that healing comes from rapport and trust and the listening that goes on.
Absolutely.
Okay, so 26 years ago, it wasn't cool, but I decided to follow my heart and do it. Now it's cool. So now I think I made a good decision, right? But it's not acceptable to me. 26 years ago, 22 years ago, when I started in 2019, I still hear too many of these stories. And that's why I'm here, because I want to help you, those of you that are resonating with what I'm throwing down, right? That this might be an option for you. So that's why I do these talks. So how do we get ourselves out of this mess? I told you I was old, right? This was my mentor, Marcus Welby, right? Doctor from the 1970s TV show. This is what I thought being a doctor was. This is why I decided not to go to conventional medicine, but to naturopathic medicine, because this is what I thought it was. Caring, listening, talking, actually being invested with your patients in their health. Now, he was a traditional doctor, but he was an old school style doctor. So he was my mentor, Dr. Marcus Welby. And then anyone know who this crazy character is? No. Say it? Jack LaLanne. Now this was when he was young. You probably remember him more from his TV commercials in the 80s, right? When he was the Juice Man. And he served really as a mentor, informally, to millions of Americans because he preached fitness, he preached healthy eating, and he preached healthy mindset, right? Positivity. And this is Jack LaLanne in his 90s. You know who that spry young woman in his arms is? That's his wife. And so what I found with people like Joe, and my brother, what he needed really in his case was a mentor, someone to dig in and say, here's the problem, here's how we're going to pull you out of the problem, and then empower you with information so that you can stay out of the problem without really relying on me too heavily, because that's not the point either, where you rely on us either. So mentorship, I think, really is the missing piece, because there's all sorts of functional, natural wellness providers out there. And they can do gene tests and microbiome tests and food tests and all sorts of fancy tests. That's good. That may be helpful. But the secret sauce is helping you understand how to implement what we find. Okay, so our secret sauce is very simple. 1, address the cause. 2, make a plan. And 3, is really coach you up, meaning I can give you a diet, I can tell you what to eat, that is not hard. What's hard is when you leave the office, and then I have to just go home and pray that you're going to do it correctly. So what I learned over the years was I'm going to take that piece back over again, and I'm going to make sure I educate you and I show you how do you implement the dietary recommendations that I'm going to be making. Educate you, we can tell you what we found, you should be doing, why you're going to be doing them, and then not just why, but how to do them, all along the way. Because think of the difference if I told Deborah, here, go on a gluten-free diet, and then I told Valerie, go on a gluten-free diet, I'm going to take you to the grocery store, and I'm going to give you recipes, and I'm going to give you ideas, and then we're going to have cooking classes, and we're going to, right? So what, do you think they might have a different chance of success if I treat them those 2 different ways? So that's a big part of what the missing piece is. So when it comes to the addressing the cause, right, this is symptoms, this is what conventional medicine usually addresses, but there's always the roots of the problem, right? So that's how we think. When it comes to thyroid disease, there's lots of causes, right? You can order a TSH, which is not enough, but if you do, and if it's high, you will get diagnosed with low thyroid. No one ever asks the question, why is your thyroid low? It's such a basic question, but the doctors don't ask. These are the super duper duper smart guys and gals that went to the best medical schools in the land, but it's not because they don't care, it's because of how they're trained. They're trained to diagnose the disease. They did it. Managing with drugs and surgery. They can do that. Here's your Synthroid, or let's take your thyroid out. That's how they're trained. So they feel like they've accomplished their job. Except no one ever explained to them in their training, how do we look for the underlying causes of this? So we don't just give someone a medicine that may or may not work, and even if it did work, that they have to rely on forever or for a lifetime. So these are all published in the medical literature, okay, in terms of related causes that underlie thyroid disease. Nutrient deficits, food issues, sensitivities to food, toxins, social isolation. That might surprise you. Social isolation is very, very inflammatory. You think of it as this emotional, psychological feeling of maybe feeling socially disconnected that has a major biological impact on your genes, on your proteins, on your immune system, and it really leads to a sense of pro-inflammation. And as we're going to talk about, inflammation itself directly blocks thyroid hormone production. Genes, there are genes that, this is a whole separate topic, but there are genes that you can measure and then overcome with lifestyle, right? Because your genes are not a sentence, they're just information. and your lifestyle can overcome your genetic destiny. So I want to talk about it, use more in red, inflammation, your gut, how gut's related to thyroid hormones and stress. But first we have to just make sure that you understand. Now there's different kinds of thyroid disease, but hypothyroidism is the most common, having low thyroid. You can have high thyroid or hyperthyroidism. But when you have hypothyroidism, 90%, 90% of hypothyroidism is due to an autoimmune disease or an autoimmune process. So I'm sure some of you in this room have heard the term Hashimoto's, right? Okay. Some of you may not have heard the term Hashimoto's. This is literally a game-changing point and question. Because think about it this way. If you have low thyroid, and 90% of people with low thyroid have an autoimmune component or a cause related to that called Hashimoto's, then is the problem your thyroid?
No.
What's the problem? Your immune system. Yet what do all the doctors treat? Your thyroid. They either take it out, they radiate it, they do surgery on it, or they medicate it. Medicating it is also, you can do two things, both of them that I see doctors do, that are actually both wrong. You can do nothing, because your thyroid function isn't bad yet, right? You have low thyroid, you have Hashimoto's, your thyroid function looks okay, so we're not going to give you any medicine. Wrong. Or, you have low thyroid, you have Hashimoto's, we're going to give you medicine. Wrong. Do you know why? Because if we don't give her medicine because her thyroid function is still good, the doctor's saying, we'll just wait. Wait for what? We'll wait for your thyroid to get so destroyed by your immune system that then finally you'll be ready for medicine and you'll take it forever. So that's why that's wrong. And then giving you medication outright is wrong because sometimes you actually don't need medicine because you have to evaluate the functioning thyroid. You can have early Hashimoto's. Your thyroid's working perfectly fine. You don't need medicine. Some doctors equate Hashimoto's with Synthroid, and they immediately put you on it, and it's a medicine you don't need. So what's right? Just think common sense. What would be the right tactic?
Treat the immune system.
Thank you. Treat the cause, or address the cause. Treat the immune system. But doctors don't get trained to treat the immune system in terms of hypothyroidism and Hashimoto's, because is there a drug for Hashimoto's? This is kind of a trick question. Is there a drug for Hashimoto's disease? There is not. But do people get a drug for Hashimoto's disease? Yes, they do. And it's called Synthroid, and sometimes it's not necessary or needed, or actually even good. So, let's keep going, I guess. So treating the immune system is really where you want to focus, right? That's where we're sort of heading. Do you understand a little bit? You can probably already understand a little bit of why you may have had or know somebody who's had this experience, which happens all the time in our office. I mean, your lab tests come back looking normal, but you're so symptomatic. And then you think, either my doctor doesn't know what they're doing, or I must be a hypochondriac, right? Like, because the doctor's telling me I'm fine, like they're smarter than I am, so I guess I'm fine, even though you're not fine, right? So there's a reason for that. And one is because they usually only measure one thing, which is, as we all know, right, TSH. Except all the thyroid experts, when I say thyroid experts, I mean like medical doctor thyroid experts, will agree. TSH is one factor, one test that should be done of at least 5 or 6 in order to really rule in or rule out a thyroid problem and to understand what part of thyroid hormone regulation is dysfunctional. So this is sort of not really a doctorly slide, but there's a lot of stuff on here. I want you to understand a few basic points. So first of all, this is your thyroid. Your thyroid produces T4, thyroid hormone called T4. thyroid hormone that comes out of your thyroid is inactive. When you take Synthroid, you're taking T4. You're taking inactive thyroid. So you're taking an inactive substance when you take Synthroid, or Levoxyl, or Thyroxine. Your body has to convert it into T3. That's active thyroid hormone. Sometimes, some of you may in this room maybe could be taking T3. It's rare, unless you're already well down a certain road. So T4 comes out inactive. Your body has to make it active into T3. Some people do that activation fine. Many people don't do it fine, which is why some people take Synthroid and their TSH number may have come down because they're taking their medicine, so the TSH comes down and looks normal, but they're not ever making active thyroid hormone. How would we know if a patient is making active thyroid hormone? We would measure T3. How many of your doctors are measuring T3? Not only are they not measuring T3, they're usually not measuring T4, they're measuring TSH. So you have to measure TSH, you gotta measure T4, you gotta measure T3. There's something called reverse T3. It's like an evil twin. It looks like T3, but doesn't act like T3. And when you make too much reverse T3, then it blocks the production and the activity of your regular active T3. So you need to understand TSH, T4, T3, reverse T3. And really you need to understand, are you making elevated amounts of antibodies from your immune system? Because that really confirms the diagnosis of Hashimoto's. So how do you know if you have Hashimoto's if you don't measure the antibodies? You don't. So when your doctor's measuring TSH, and maybe if you're super lucky, T4, it's such an incomplete picture. And this is only the thyroid. We haven't talked about stress and inflammation and hormones yet. But so TSH is inadequate. You have to look at T4, T3, reverse T3. Now, let's talk for a second, because here is where we're going to bring in some other factors. Things that inhibit the production of T4 in the first place. Stress, infection. We're going to talk about hidden infections. Toxins like fluoride, pesticides, mercury, autoimmune diseases. These all inhibit the thyroid from making T4. But even if you make enough T4, you've got to convert it to T3. What impacts that conversion? Zinc and selenium. There are very well-proven studies that show the enzyme that makes T4 into T3 relies on selenium and zinc. So I can't tell you how many times we uncover zinc and selenium deficiencies with great-looking T4, terrible-looking T3. How do you know? You got to look. You got to measure it. But now you know the problem is not the thyroid. The problem is the conversion. Where does this conversion happen? Anyone want to guess? The conversion of after the T4 comes out of the thyroid, it gets converted from inactive to active. Where in the body does that happen? The liver and kidney and gut. So just from a 30,000-foot view, we've all been hearing about the importance of gut health, right? Not just for everything, not just for weight loss, not just for our mood, not just for our actual gut, for our hormone regulation, especially thyroid hormones. If you have gut distress, gut dysfunction, liver stress, your thyroid may be perfectly fine. You cannot take that T4 and convert it into T3. Things that cause, remember I said you got to also measure if reverse T3 is too high. This is the evil twin. Well, stress, trauma, inflammation, toxins, more hidden infections, gut problems, certain medications. So do you start to see how looking for inflammation, looking for stress, looking for hidden infections, looking for toxicities is absolutely critical if you want to get underneath why someone has a thyroid problem. But this never happens in the traditional modern American medical system because you did your TSH, it was high, you gave your Synthroid, we're done. But meanwhile, no one's ever dealing with what's going on underneath it all. And then we have reference ranges. also, which get you into trouble. Because even if we talk about TSH only, which is incomplete, right? But the range is 0.3 to 4.5. If you're 4.4, guess what? Your doctor is going to tell you your TSH is normal. But all of the endocrinologists met over 10 years ago, and they decided that TSH, the reference range was too wide, meaning we're calling people normal that really we shouldn't be calling normal, meaning they need help, they need clinical help, but we're telling them they're normal. So we think the TSH range should be between 1 and, they argue, between 1 and 2 or 1 and 3. But 4.5, they all agreed was too high. Except guess what? Guess what the labs still report? 4.5. Guess what your doctor uses before he walks in the door and looks at your TSH? Allie, TSH 4.1, looks good. See you in 6 months. Right? So that's also why you get into this trouble of your labs look normal, but you're not normal. And why sometimes, for those of you that have loved ones who care about you, and they ask, how'd your doctor appointment go? You say, well, the doctor said everything was normal. Meanwhile, all they ever hear is you just in their ear about how crappy you feel all the time. And then they think you're a hypochondriac because the doctor said your lab tests were all normal, so you must be, you must need to see a psychiatrist. Or sometimes the doctor sends you to a psychiatrist because your lab tests are normal. They don't know what to do. You have all these problems. You see how crazy this becomes. It's not your fault, but it is your responsibility to take it and, to make different choices and to ask questions and to advocate and to make different decisions about how you want your health to go. When it comes to stress, you've got to understand one thing as an important take-home point tonight. Stress is not just emotional stress. I mean, it is, right? Like marital stress, right? No one in here has marital stress, right? Work stress, money stress, and those are all stressors, but low blood sugar is a stress. Sleep deprivation is a stress. Over-exercising is a stress. Mold is a stress. Electromagnetic radiation from all of our devices and Wi-Fi is a stress. Pain, food, sensitivities are stressors. Your brain does not care. Your brain senses stress and activates the stress response. So we are under lots and lots and lots of stress. Known and unknown, hidden and not so hidden. And so we have to understand, because remember I said stress blocks the conversion of certain thyroid hormones? So let's measure it. Let's not just rely on you telling me you're under stress or that you're not under stress. Let's actually measure your cortisol levels. This also doesn't happen very often in conventional medicine because they're thinking cortisol, this is your adrenal hormone. I know that you don't have an adrenal disease. I went to medical school. I can just look at you and talk to you for 3 minutes and probably 99.9% accuracy tell you you don't have an adrenal disease. But I'm using the word disease, not cortisol dysregulation. Those are two totally different things. You may not have an adrenal disease. You may have cortisol dysregulation that's affecting your thyroid hormones, and your gut, your brain, and your fatigue, and your mental function, and cognitive function, and immune system. So this is a graph of what should be happening with cortisol over the day. This is morning, this is evening. Highest in the morning, and then as the day goes on, it should get low. However, this red line is not an uncommon scenario where a patient will report, I'm so exhausted. Like I can't even barely get out of bed. I feel like I got run up by a truck. But they manage to get up and manage to get through their day. And then, when they're finally just looking forward to like they're so tired going to bed at the end of the day, they not only get a second wind, they can't sleep. They're wired and tired. And it drives them mad because they're so tired they just want to sleep, but they can't. And not that cortisol dysregulation explains every one of those patients, but my point is we can look at these things very easily. We can measure cortisol at 4 time points in the day with a very accurate saliva specimen.